So we have some very interesting developments happening over in Ukraine because of what the United States has now announced. Now, I want to break this to you. We are going to be sending U.S. contractors into Ukraine. This is the first time that we have allowed this, and this could actually be an escalation of tensions between Russia and Ukraine. Now, I'm going to break down why this is happening at this time, what went on to really cause this, but what Russia could potentially do moving forward. So I'll break all this down in just a moment, explain why we are potentially just one miscalculation away from a potential war between the United States and Russia. So I'll break all that down in just a moment, but all I ask is one thing. It takes 2 seconds. Go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates. And now let's begin. So here's what's going on. We now know that President Biden wants to do whatever he can to get this war between Russia and Ukraine settled. But it might not have anything to do with Biden himself. It might actually have more to do with President-elect Donald Trump. Because President-elect Donald Trump said many months ago that within 24 hours of him becoming the next president, he could end the war in Ukraine. And he has a plan. His plan would be to stop sending any equipment, any additional aid, no funding over to Ukraine. But if Ukraine still wants some funding, still wants some military equipment and potentially personnel, then they need to give the Donbas region over to Russia. Well, they don't like that. But this is what happened today. The Biden administration is now going to allow American military contractors to deploy to Ukraine. Says the first time since Russia's invasion. This is why I'm saying we are one miscalculation away. Because what if Russia attacks Ukraine and yet takes the lives of a U.S. military contractor? What happens then? Would that be an escalation of war? Potentially, especially if it happens multiple times. Well, I want to show you the reason why this is such a big deal and why we are sending U.S. contractors over to Ukraine. It's actually pretty simple. Right now, we cannot send more weapons. We can't send more tanks and fighter jets over to Ukraine. We just can't do it. It's not going to happen during a lame duck session under President Biden. Okay, so what can we do? Well, just so we're very clear, what the United States is doing right now was actually agreed to before the election. It's not like it just happened today. This was agreed to before the election. That the United States would have to send U.S. contractors, military contractors over to Ukraine to fix the machinery so that Ukraine can use it. Look at this. It says U.S. will send contractors to Ukraine to help fix its weapons. It says F-16 fighter jets and air defense systems are among the equipment that requires contractor support, according to the Pentagon. Now, I want to read a little bit of this article because, number one, I think this is very interesting. Number two, it's interesting the timing of this. Okay, let's get right down to it. It says the Pentagon said Friday that it will send a small number of U.S. defense contractors to Ukraine, where they will repair advanced American-made weapons, including F-16 fighter jets and air defense systems donated by Western allies amid Russia's invasion. Now, here's what's very interesting and somewhat concerning. We now know there are North Korean troops in Ukraine fighting on behalf of Russia. What happens when a North Korean troop goes up against a U.S. military contractor that's fixing a F-16 fighter jet? What happens then? Does that put us even closer to a war with North Korea, who just a couple weeks ago was testing ballistic missiles? A missile that could actually make its way, an intercontinental ballistic missile, could make its way into the United States. That's how far it can travel. That's concerning. Now, I want to keep reading this. It says development comes in the closing weeks of the Biden administration while there is deep uncertainty over President-elect Donald Trump's intent to sustain the extensive military and economic assistance Washington had provided the government in Kyiv over nearly 3 years of conflict. says Biden has steadfastly opposed putting Americans in harm's way to aid Ukraine, while Trump, who spoke with Ukraine's president after securing re-election Wednesday, has objected to the expense and vowed to bring the war to an end, possibly on terms unfavorable to Kyiv. Again, like I said, Trump's plan to give the Donbas region over to Russia, but in the negotiation, Russia would then pull out of the rest of Ukraine. Ukraine would still get funding and still get military equipment from the United States and Western allies, but, and this is the big one, Ukraine needs to remain peaceful. Okay? They need to be neutral. They cannot be part of NATO, which means they could actually see a bar on joining NATO for 20 plus years. And I talked about this just 2 days ago, and I said former President Donald Trump, or President-elect Donald Trump, and the Russian President Vladimir Putin are both not going to make it likely another 20 years. So again, we're going to see what happens. The one thing I can tell you right now, though, sending these U.S. contractors, military contractors, over to Ukraine to help fix this equipment, this could actually be a bad thing, especially if we continue to see drones, missiles, right? Just the fighting that we're seeing in Ukraine. If this continues, there could be a casualty, a U.S. casualty, and that could push us even closer to a potential war with either Russia or North Korea. Now, what's former President Donald Trump going to do? Is he going to really push back on this? According to reports, no. That right now, Trump doesn't have the say. It's not up to him, but he's going to be kind of in the loop, going to be in the mix, and eventually, on January 20th, it will all come down to what him and his team have to say. Now, we are currently, it's November 8th. So we actually have, 2+ months before this is going to happen. A lot can happen in 2 months. We could see this war completely end. We could see this war intensify. We could see the war expand into other countries. Right? There's a lot of things that could happen. So again, I just want to be very clear on this. What the United States just did by allowing the American military contractors to deploy into Ukraine, again, for the first time since Russia's invasion, this, according to Russia, could be an escalation of war. So, we'll see what happens moving forward. The one thing I can tell you right now is there's a lot of speculation about what could happen, what should happen, what might happen. But nobody knows exactly what is going to happen. Not me, even not President Biden, even not Vladimir Putin. Nobody knows exactly what's going to happen because, again, this is a war. Trying to negotiate the war and end it could take some time. So, as we get more information on that, I promise I will bring you all the latest news and updates, but that is what we know as of today. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.